The Rites of Passage, a symbolic journey that signifies the end is near. The remaining castaways paid their last tributes and respects to those whose lives were ended in the game, metaphorically of course. Fire represents your life in the game of Survivor, but for one brief moment after your flame is out, you get a chance to be remembered before the intense final immunity challenge and the final tribal council. It is the last chance to stop and breathe before the game cranks up to 11. So how did it start and why did it ultimately die? Let's find out. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing to this channel. This video was made possible by the patrons on my Patreon, and every month they vote on what videos I should make like this one. Consider joining them to get videos early and to pick what videos I make. Now on to the complete history of the Rites of Passage in Survivor. The Rites of Passage, otherwise known as Fallen Comrades, was once a staple of Survivor, and it all started in Season 1, Survivor Borneo. The stage is set as Jeff explains what the heck they're even doing, what all this means, and throws the curveball that they will need to walk barefoot across a fire pit. It's pretty elaborate as natives wave branches at them, and at the end, they must cover themselves with the mud of the island. It brings gravitas to what they are doing, but we never hear them say a word about those voted out, and we never hear a word from the players who were voted out either. Despite everything that goes into this Rites of Passage only takes about 3.5 minutes.
There have been so many steps along the way that you've stepped through one door into another area. What we want this to be right now is a way for you guys to take everything that you've become over the last 38 days and channel it into one powerful experience.
In Season 2, Survivor the Australian Outback, the gravitas is really cranked down as the final 3 kind of just walk past the torches of those voted out before them. No introduction is made by Jeff this time to any of this, and not a single person talks along the way. It's kinda dull. And despite there being much less to do than what the castaways in Season 1 had to endure, this Rites of Passage takes even longer, clocking in at about 4.5 minutes. Now, Season 3 Survivor Africa really flips the script 180 degrees from the lackluster Season 2 Rites of Passage by upping the ante. Not only is Jeff back to introduce to them what they're about to do, but the local elders bless them with like this Styx chant thing, and then they have goat fat and blood washed over them before finally ending with this like triply edited ritual dance. It's a bit strange, but another plus is that for the first time, we hear from the voted out castaways what they think. However, all these things combined do create the longest Rites of Passage so far, but justifiably so, at just under 7 minutes. Season 4 Survivor Marquesas brings a different element to the Rites of Passage. While it is far simpler than that of Africa's, it is more complex than Season 2's at least. This time the final 3 have to build their own outrigger canoe, paint themselves, and basically go on like this epic Lord of the Rings style walk. The view is epic and they each do some epic poses at the end, but no one talks, not even the past players. This whole experience lasts about 5 minutes and 45 seconds. In Season 5 Survivor Thailand, gone are the torches of the past players. Instead, the remaining players left in the game are tasked with creating wreaths for those who have been voted out, which is kind of cool. But the actual Rites of Passage is fairly straightforward since all they have to do is take a boat to their final immunity challenge and along the way, drop the wreaths in the water. No past or current players talk, and the entire experience takes about 4.5 minutes. Season 6 Survivor the Amazon is kind of like, oops, we forgot to do a Rites of Passage, let's throw it together real quick, as it has the most slap rites of passage that Survivor ever has and ever will put together. Normally, the rites of passage happens at the final 3, right before the final immunity challenge, but for the Amazon, it's kind of like, oh yeah, we have to do this, and it's the last day, and we have the final 2, so let's just have them paint everybody's name on a box and talk about them. But as each of these players talk about each of the past players, the editors never let them finish their thoughts. They kind of just like fade away after like a few seconds. It all seems very last second. It only takes about 2 minutes, and it makes by far the shortest rites of passage of all time, and definitely the weakest.
Shauna, I remember Shauna. So that's 6. Now the 7th person voted out, I believe, is Roger.
Season 7 Survivor Pearl Islands really remedies what happened in Season 6 by actually planning out the rites of passage. They embrace the pirate theme just like everything else this season, but this time the players collect all the torches, say a few words by each of them, and put them on a pirate ship that they light on fire by firing off some guns. The biggest omission to all this is Austin's torch is not included since he quit and they really want to make an example of this. All this only takes though a bit over 6 minutes.
Fire!
Season 8 Survivor All-Stars is a bit simpler in its execution as the final 3 dress up in jewelry and body paint, but more importantly is that the previously voted out castaways get to talk for the first time since Season 3. Due to the talking, this rite of passage takes about 7 minutes.
Walking by all the torches made me feel proud to be standing where I was standing, but also a little guilty knowing that I ended this game for a lot of those people.
Season 9, Survivor Vanuatu, is a bit weird. So both the players who are still in the game and the players who are voted out get to talk, which is fine. Pretty much from here on out, that will be standard fare, just expect that for every season. However, for this iteration of the rites of passage, the final 3 has to boat over to this far away island to make a sacrifice to Roy Mata. And you can kind of tell that they have no idea what they're supposed to do, so they kind of just awkwardly give back the Spirit Stone they got in episode 1, but no one has even really mentioned the Spirit Stone since like episode 2, and they just kind of call it a day from there. It's supposed to be meaningful, and it's clear they're like, yeah, whatever, we're doing this. This rites of passage takes right under 8 minutes, and it's an awkward 8 minutes.
And we were also given this chief staff, and it looks to me like maybe there's a chief and a chiefess. Not sure how it goes, but...
Season 10 Survivor Palau simplifies things a bit by having the final 3 boat over to where all the players' torches are in one spot, pick them up, drop them in the ocean one by one, and the biggest travesty though is that Wanda nor Jonathan's torches are included, maybe because their torches weren't snuffed at Tribal. Either way, this rites of passage takes right under 7 minutes.
Steph, I love her.
Yeah, I do.
Good spirit.
A really good spirit.
Season 11 Survivor Guatemala gets a bit artsy as every past player has artwork made of them, which subsequently gets burned along the way. It's a cool touch, but nothing else about this rites of passage is special, and this version takes a bit over 6 minutes.
I call this Survivor experience for me like a mental rehab. I mean, I never even went camping before.
Season 12, Survivor Exile Island, is a bit simple in concept, as they collect all the torches on Exile Island, which makes sense for the season called Exile Island, and then at the very end, they all burn them on the Exile Island skull, a fitting way to cap the season off. However, despite this only being a 16-person cast, it is the longest rites of passage so far at 8 minutes. Season 13, Survivor Cook Islands, introduces a new twist to the game. Since this season has the first ever Final 3 at Final Tribal Council instead of a Final 2, there are 4 people participating in the last immunity challenge, and therefore 4 people participate in the rites of passage for the first time as well. This rites of passage takes about 7.5 minutes to complete.
We got tree mail, and we were told that we're going to our final immunity challenge, which kind of blew our minds because we have 1 challenge left and we have 4 people.
Season 14, Survivor Fiji, is a bit bare bones with its rites of passage. 4 people participate and they take the torches of their fallen comrades and place them on a separate canoe to be burned. That's about it. This rites of passage takes 6 minutes to complete.
All right.
Season Season 15 Survivor China has a cool location for the Rites of Passage, but despite that, each torch now has mini fireworks that get lit when they are done reminiscing about that player. But the even bigger deal, in my opinion, is that the Rites of Passage ceremony is all of a sudden getting way longer, and it's still only a 16-person cast. This one lasts 8.5 minutes.
It was a great big giant teddy bear.
Season 16 Survivor Micronesia is really noticeable because the tree mail telling them, hey, we're doing the Rites of Passage, is also a huge blindside to the final 3, as it lets them know that, hey, this season has a surprise final 2 and not a final 3 like they assumed. It's a gut punch to the 3 remaining women. They collect all the torches and burn them at the Exile Tower, but even more notable is how long the Rites of Passage is this season, at over 10 minutes.
As they each had a part in getting you to this point, you'll then proceed to your final immunity challenge.
Oh my god. It's another immunity challenge. It's like, when is it gonna end, you know?
Season 17 Survivor Gabon is a bit simple with their fallen comrades walk, with the exception that at the end, when it comes time to burn everyone's stuff, there are locals present doing some sort of chant. The Rites of Passage this season is just a tad shorter at 9.5 minutes, but still quite long. Season 18 Survivor Tocantins is once again a simple fallen comrades walk, albeit this one ends with a speech from each of the final 3 to really get us pumped up going into the final immunity challenge. However, the Rites of Passage manages to top itself again and clock in at just under 11 minutes long for a 16-player cast.
It's usually not the strongest person that wins. The more pathetic you look and act usually seems to get you pretty far in the game. So those people can have their money. I'll keep my awesome personality and fantastic good looks.
Season 19 Survivor Samoa is the most basic Rites of Passage so far. Both active and inactive players talk, and it only takes about 9.5 minutes, despite having 4 more players than Tocantins, which is a bit crazy. Season 20 Survivor Heroes vs. Villains is a doozy. Not really with how they do the Rites of Passage. It's pretty standard stuff where they light the past castaways' names on fire with a large wooden statue. You could argue this is the one season that earns this, but this Rites of Passage clocks in at just under 12 minutes. It's the record on this list, and it's not going to be broken.
You go, girl.
Season 21 Survivor Nicaragua had a couple of quitters, as you may recall, in Nyanka and Purple Kelly. Every player they reflect upon has a colored shield that the players collect along the way so they can burn them all at the end of the walk. But for Nyanka and Purple Kelly, their shields don't get any color. They are grayed out, and they pretty much get dumped on by the players just one last time. These rites are mercifully shorter and only take a bit under 8 minutes long.
Nyanka.
11 days left to walk out of the game.
She had an idol in her hand when she quit.
Definitely disappointing.
Another quitter. Purple Kelly.
Purple Kelly.
Probably would have been better for her to be voted out than to quit.
Season 22 Survivor Redemption Island introduces the first crack in the Fallen Comrades walk, and whether the show even cares about this anymore at all. How so, you might ask? Well, this season's Rites of Passage can only be watched online, and even if you buy the season on DVD now, it isn't included as a bonus feature. There's nothing wrong with this Rites of Passage, but it is clear the show is starting to move on from it / have no new ideas for it.
Pretty awesome, huh?
Yeah, amazing.
And that is made way more evident when the Rites of Passage is completely skipped altogether in Season 23. Not even an online-only version exists of it. So we have to move on to Season 24, Survivor One World, to see the return, and it's pretty basic, nothing special at all. It takes about 9 minutes to complete. And I hate to say it, but Season 25 Survivor Philippines is nothing special. And that goes for Season 26 Survivor Caramoan as well. Both Rites of Passage are super basic and both take between 8.5 minutes to 9 minutes to complete. It really feels like the Rites of Passage peaked in Season 20 and maybe it should have just stayed there. I mean, I guess at least Season 21 had the perk of being able to dump on the 2 quitters once more for good measure, but it really becomes standard fare with nothing different at all once Season 22 goes online only. My personal gripe is how long in the tooth they really become along the way. If you aren't doing some sort of crazy ritual like in Season 3, then these Rites of Passage shouldn't be taking longer than 7 minutes, but they just kept growing and growing in the amount of time they took out of the finale episodes, which I am not a big fan of. Okay, and here are some fun bonus stats. You may recall how pretty much with every single season's Rites of Passage, I have mentioned the length of time each of them took up on screen. So what is the average length that they take up? Well, I calculated it's about 442 seconds, which comes out to 7 minutes and 22 seconds on average, though those later seasons really drove up the numbers. Out of the 25 times we see the Rites of Passage, 19 of those has the players that are still in the game talking. And out of the 25 times that we have the Rites of Passage, 19 of those times has inactive players, the players who have already been voted out, talking as well. Though the 19 seasons for the active players and the 19 seasons for the inactive players are not the same 19 seasons. There are some seasons where only the inactive players talk, and there are some seasons where only the active players talk. But what do you think about the Rites of Passage? Should it make a comeback? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I want to give an even bigger thanks to the patrons as they made this video happen, and it was made at their request. Once again, thanks for watching.